Wrath has been defeated, and now we move our attention towards Mr. Regulus himself, who I'm intrigued to see how they handle this. I do think up to this point, they haven't made him as challenging or imposing as I almost felt he was intended to be. And maybe that's just like a misread on my part, you know, maybe I just hyped myself up for someone or something that wasn't ever meant to be that. And potentially he is, right? And potentially we haven't been able to see that yet. Potentially the anime itself has altered things, potentially things like there's routes this could go. There's different options for this. And I won't know, you know, until we fully get through. But I do hope this episode, which I'm assuming will be focused around this fight, due to the way that they're kind of building things to be, gives a little bit more clarity into I wasn't giving the wrong impression, or I wasn't making the wrong assumptions, I guess I should state. And we will see. We'll see exactly how they handle it. And maybe the entirety, like I said, was meant to just be kind of goofy and out there and showcase more so his own inability when it comes to certain things, but also give insight a little bit into his own personality, and how he kind of is and operates and stuff, which could provide a little bit more clarity, I'd assume, onto potentially why he is what we get to see on screen here. But I'm interested, because the way I took it and made the assumption was we were going to get like straight counterpart to Reinhard. I don't know why, I just always felt that he would be like the difficult one for us to go up against. His displayed kind of power and also his general immunity to, you know, taking damage and stuff has kind of been like intriguing as to why, you know, and how you get around that, which we still have to kind of discover, which likely, you know, of course, as Subaru points out, in relation to his wives and everything, which will be likely unraveled throughout either this episode or the remaining few. It just still sits in my own mind that he would just be the one who is prepared for battle in a sort of way. The arrogance and confidence that kind of oozes off of the individual sometimes isn't necessarily what matches up with what you actually get. But I bought into him. When he spoke, I believed he truly believes everything he says. And I believed he was going to be able to back that up on enough of a level that made me concerned for anybody who would have to go against him besides Reinhard, which technically can still be true. Doesn't mean that it's not the case, right? He could just by nature be a goofy individual who maybe isn't the smartest when it comes to battle or anything, but he does have the most power in a sort of way, or the most unique authority and ability to kind of evade potentially being within battle and everything anyways. So there's like there's levels to what we could be doing and what was intended by the author and everything. So we do have to be mindful, and by we I mean me, of that. But I think I just like assumed we were going to take on more of a serious tone, which we haven't up to this point, which does make me a little, I don't know, like it makes me just feel a type of way about where we're headed with the fight. But I'm excited regardless, and he's a blast to have on screen no matter what, even if things don't go exactly how I almost expect them to. I just find everything he says to be an absolute joy, regardless of how, you know, annoying or just gross he can be at different moments. It's so entertaining listening to a person who like speaks in a way that they believe the things that they say, and they twist every single scenario and every single thing to be beneficial or fitting a little bit towards them. But more so in a way of like those are the worst type of people I think in real life, but they're kind of great with their characters on screen. He's a blast. So I kind of just excited regardless, I think, of what he's going to be capable of and what he does here. So I don't really have too much more to say. I just anticipate the episode being kind of around this battle due to the fact that we've been barely building any of the other ones up. So it wouldn't make sense to just jump cut directly into any of those, in my opinion. And just keep this one like take longer and longer to kind of unfold. I think it feels like it's ran itself to the point that we need to focus up a little bit. So I'm excited for it, though. I hope you are as well. If you like it all, like and subscribe to me. Feel free to stick around for our discussion. Leave any comments about this particular series. Let's get going with episode 62 of ReZero. The OP. Run to the wives, Amelia. Look at them, just proper, despite the destruction around them. Like how they all have like similar bangs but different lengths. Something they don't value. Not your number. Yeah. But you. Miss equality over here. But at the same time, yeah, can be the same. He's asking. Without him around, without him knowing, everybody. Would you rather continue hating him or be alive or not be alive, you know? I was like, I get that, but I like when he talks. I think there's ways for them to twist this to be really fucked up with what's about to happen. There's also ways that it doesn't have to be, so we'll see. It's part of him onto all of them. Yeah. That's what I was guessing when I said it could get bad, because it likely could mean that we have to kill all of them in order to do anything to him. But they'll probably have a way to remove it from him, like a surgery. Oh. If he ensures his happiness and life, he doesn't care.
の男を倒すには重ねられた私の心臓を止めるしかありません。ダメ、お願い待って。したらまた誰かが犠牲になって、私何のために森を出たの。心は踏みにじられても体には手を出してこないから今日まで耐えられた。なのにあの男は私たちがかすり傷一つでも負ったら無価値扱いして殺すんです。だからこの傷は私の自由なあの男へのこれまでの日々の仕返しにこれ以上の方法はありません。きっと
Even if you have to come along with the
次の誰かに移る。あの男が愛せるのは自分ただ一人ですから。私たちで終わらせたい。あの男に私たちの怒りをきっと届けて。待って。お願い、もうこれ以上は。ごめんなさい、違うの。私があなたたちの鼓動。
she's gonna freeze all of them. I don't know why I didn't think about that. What the fuck?
こんな方法しかなくて。謝らないでください。ありがとう。
見つけたら絶対ベラベラと勝ち誇るバカだって。おかげでお前の正体は分かったぜ。
He is that kind of guy.
この僕を誰だと思ってる。
I think he's got a pretty strong read on you. That would be a good time for Reinhardt to come down from the moon. Damn, they went far. I thought they were so close.
これが人間のやることなのかな。何の罪もない妻たちの命。
Just relaying the anger.
あなたの花嫁さんたちからの絶縁状だと思って。
いろいろやってくれたみたいだけどさ、残ったのが盛大な犠牲だけ。それってどんな笑い話なわけ。どう挽回するのかな。そんなわけがねえ。
It's only one way to repay.
お前もベラベラ喋って。大方そのシリガル女が数でも数え間違えたんじゃないの。奪った命の数も数えられないなんて完全に殺戮者の発想だよね。どうかしてるよお前。
53人。
ああ、
53人よ。それがあなたが無理やり押さえつけていた女の人の数。私は命の数を数え間違えたりしないわ。
数が数えられて偉いねって。
私すごく怒ってるから、もう許してなんてあげない。スバル、レグルスの心臓はここ。今私の胸の中にあるわ。
目と閉めてるんだってことをさ。エミリア、本気であいつの心臓は。
ほんと、美精霊のみんなに確認してもらったし、私も自分で感じるの。私は自分の奥さんにふさわしくないってあれだけ言ってたくせに。
うるさいな。ぐだぐだ偉そうに説教するなよ、インバイ。試してみれば。他に僕の心臓が宿る場所があるかどうか。
You wanna put it out to test? You wanna give it a shot?
簡単だよ。今目の前にいるその女を殺せばいい。
And then you could kill me. So wonderful.
なんだっけ、滞在司教を殺したとか。笑い草もいいとこだよね。あんな出来損ないを殺したぐらいで僕に勝てるとか勘違いしたんならご愁傷様だよ。あいつは滞在司教になる前もなってからも何一つ満足にやり遂げられないグズだったんだ。まさかそんなことが
You could try. It might end really bad.
俺を信じて全部任せてくれるか。
スバルならやってくれるってずっと信じてる。
Oh, fun. Like from the
そこにいたんだね
the OP.
ジュース
That's sick.
の中で動いてるから
はあ何
So does Hayes have anything else he can do?
で分かり合っちゃって周りは置いてきぼりなんですけど今の茶番とか三文芝居の説明をしろよお前
Just punch him and then he figures it out.
足元濡れてるぞ
Ah!
前ら
What a lucky guy, honestly. Now it's real fun. Now you get to see him get his ass kicked and actually get it kicked. The cutest girl you know beating the shit out. The worst dude you know. One for all. Looking real rough, buddy.
自分の心臓を止めなくちゃならない。完全に時間制限付きの無敵化だな。
のさ、君たち、今日だとか思わないのかなあ
It's within our rights to play this way.
真似をして心が痛まないわけそれって人として大事な部分がどうかしたんじゃないの
I mean, to be fair, you tried utilizing like 50 people against us, so... You want a monologue, or you want to...
1対1で正々堂々戦おう。
Sure.
いうわけが
そうだよ僕を誰だと思ってる魔女教滞在意識を強欲担当のレグルス・コルニアスだぞ
言ったことがすぐに変わるし話してる内容は空っぽでよくわからない私あなたのこと世界で一番かわいそうな人だと思うわ
Still hate you, though.
お前との一騎打ち受けてやってもいいぜ。
そうだよそうこなくっちゃもちろん騎士が自分のご主人様の後ろに隠れて応援してるだけだってことは知らない
That's not true. He's the biggest cheerleader.
騎士が戦うのが道理だ。だからまたになっちまうが、最後は任せる。わかったよ。
I'll come back, brother. First man to walk on the moon.
挑まれた一騎打ち、騎士として受けよう。
空の彼方までどうやって
確かにあれに止まらされたよ。
just took a lap around the moon real quick, came back, we're good.
だけ間違えたね。僕を月に向かって投げるべきじゃなかった。
He gave him something to bounce off of so he could come back.
ラインハルト・バン・アストレア。
待ってマジだろ ないありえないありえない。なんで僕がこんな目に遭わなきゃならないんだよ。僕は魔女教滞在司教強欲担当レグルス・コルニアスだ。この世で最も満たされて最も子として完成。
You became uncomplete once you started touching the water, dude. I don't know what to tell you.
僕を見ているだろう。僕を見て笑ったんだろう。僕の何がおかしい。僕の何を見て笑った。ヘラヘラと笑うな。僕の妻は笑わなかった。僕の最初の妻は何をしたって笑わなかった。ただ綺麗な顔でずっと僕を見ていた。妻の家族を殺して妻に言い寄る人間をみんな殺して二人きりでずっと彼女は笑わなかった。それ
I love even at the ends of it, he still has to monologue.
笑わない顔が綺麗だったんだから笑わなくていいんだ。待てよ。
All to replace that hole for how awful of a fucking person you are.
どうして最後の瞬間にだけ笑う。笑うな笑うな笑うな。僕は一人になんかならない。お前は僕の妻のくせにどうして僕が一人きりになるのをいい気味だなんて笑うんだ。ふざけろな。僕は悪くない。僕は悪くない。僕は悪くない。僕は悪くない。僕は悪くない。僕は悪くない。僕は悪くない。僕は悪くない。僕は悪くない。僕は悪くない。
It's crazy how that one little thing like makes perfect sense for everything that we've built him to be.
僕も剣を引くところだけどね。化け物め。そうだね。僕は化け物を狩る化け物。君も運命を受け入れる時だ。
What the fuck?
あの女だけは許さない。79番目の妻、その予定だった女。そもそもその番号はもともと別の。思い出した。あの女、僕をコケにした79番とペテルギウスが大事にしていたガキだ。
I have a feeling you work very closely with number 79.
娘が母親とペテルギウスの仇を取って幸せになるなんてヘドが出る。
どこかで会ってた気がしてて。
初対面じゃなかったってこと？それならいつ？
それがね、思い出せないの。
で喜ぶなんてくそー。絶対にごめんだ。絶対に絶対絶対絶対絶対絶対絶対絶対絶対絶対。
レグルスって私とどこで会ってたんだろう。
Hmm. What do we do with all of them? That's my question.
俺のエミリアタンは大したもんだ。
Yeah.
よく気づいたね。花嫁さんたちを氷漬けにして仮死状態にしようなんて。
私も凍ってた時間が長かったから。みんなも大丈夫かしら。
そのためのラインハルト。それにぶっちゃけみんな俺より強いからね。
The fuck? Why did he awaken looking at like that? A rip bozo to Mr. Regulus. Goodbye, sir. Your presence was actually very welcomed and very enjoyed throughout every episode that you're kind of involved. So I thank you very much for that. I'd like to really start off though by retracing back to the start of the episode, or the intro, where I kind of discussed my general feelings on where they were headed and what the potential thoughts were for why we're building Regulus in this entire fight and everything to be kind of goofy and not necessarily feel as threatening or serious or imposing or anything that I was maybe essentially under the assumption that we would get as things were kind of developing, and since Regulus has really been introduced. And I kind of wasn't sure if it was more of this was intended to be this way, it wasn't intended to be this way, they changed things in the anime maybe from how the novel was, maybe they did it exactly how it was and I just didn't understand the direction that we were headed. But I get it. This episode, like I assumed at the beginning, would give me the provided context for why we wrote everything in the direction that we did. And it just comes down to General Regulus is weak. He's extremely powerful and strong and has a cheating ability essentially as his authority here. But he's not really a fighter. He's very mentally fragile. He's extremely insecure. And that's all it kind of comes down to. His monologues, his loud boasts, everything he does represents who he was before and what he's vowed to kind of get the upper hand on other people by utilizing. You know, he won't let other people look at him and laugh at him. He won't let people view him in a certain way. And when they try to do anything that goes against what he believes is his own right and his own feelings of how, you know, he should be able to live as a being, he one-ups them in a way of he overwhelms them with whatever power or ability he has. He talks louder than them to try and impose his importance or how much more, I guess, just important he is over them. He speaks in ways that twist the words and utilize things to make other people reflect on and feel bad for the actions that that they've done, I guess, but justifying the actions that he's done in a way that he's able to do so, right? And all of that gets perfectly explained in a little dialogue of him flying up essentially in the sky and recalling back on exactly where his past comes from. It's kind of beautiful. A lot of the things that happen throughout this episode are really just poetic in general, in my opinion, but also just great at calling things back and making subtle and maybe even irrelevant appearing things within the second season or just other encounters of Regulus kind of being around. It just highlights how much more with subtle interactions that they continue to do things within the series that are really good at like potentially telling you where we're headed in the direction, like in the future. The entire interaction with Regulus and Betelgeuse in season 2 never really clicks, I'm assuming, for anybody who's reading it to begin theorizing in any sort of way that the person that you're going to attack then is going to be the downfall of you, essentially, right? Like, you're never really going to think about that or think about the relevance that Amelia might have in the overall death of him by viewing this. Well, that part makes a little more sense and it's likely to view it, but where Betelgeuse came into this was probably not really on anybody's radar for the relevance that it'll of course have later by him kind of downplaying his own ability and his own position. And I think it's super well done. They do that with a variety of other things throughout the series as well. And you take like these subtle little moments and things that don't really get a lot of attention or anything drawn to them that of course have some sort of relevance a little bit later. That's why you can't like overlook anything entirely. And it ends up becoming one of those series where you have to like kind of remember a lot of the things that have been proposed and talked about in the seasons leading up to it, as opposed to just taking it at like one season at a time and not being really refreshed or caught up with everything that's going on. Because you can, and that's the thing, that's the beauty in a lot of stories, right? Is typically you can enjoy it and understand it on a level that works with that, but the understanding and appreciation you gain for it gets amplified so much more when you end up noticing all the like slight little details of foreshadowing and just like potential references that were noted at one point and get completely copied again in another. But as I was saying, very fitting for Regulus in general to have his character essentially written and killed off this way. The entire episode was hilarious. It wasn't anything to... I didn't sit there and laugh because I was still under, I think, the initial issue with sometimes what happens with me, where I get into like this state of mind of like, the episode's gonna probably go this way, so let me take this serious and like view it this way, which is what I was trying to do throughout it. So I was just kind of remaining a little bit more silent, trying to focus a little bit more on the things that are happening and understand everything that's occurring, when in reality it was just hilarious. Regulus yelling at us not to laugh at him, when in reality the only people that were laughing at him was us, like as the viewers. It's just really funny to me. But I love his monologue. I love that at the end. And really being able to get down to and explain where all his insecurities and everything come from, essentially with his first wife being, I'm assuming, a normal one, and not necessarily in regards to like his authority or anything when it came to that. But more on the ends of like, he just was really insecure of the people who kind of came around her, that she was around, and it really made him feel a type of way. So he went out of his way and he killed any and everybody that was around her, which unfortunately she had to probably pass at some point. And from then he just turned to be the most awful person, who essentially, I mean, and of course he even did it. He was already terrible, killing all these people who were close to her and utilizing his love for her as justification for why it was okay for what he does, already sick and twisted as it is. But as it got progressively worse, he found more and more people. He continued to threaten the lives of them, essentially, if they altered or changed themselves from being like this spitting image of what he wanted, what his wife initially was, and trying to find replacements or create replacements essentially in them, until he got to the point that he was like maybe satisfied or could find something that was like a full-on replace. I don't know exactly like what his end goal realistically here was, but considering all of them have like similar styles of hair and like all have like a similar appeal almost to them, it would make a ton of sense to me that he's been taken more and more on, essentially trying to fill that void and that gap that was left with her from, you know, his first marriage, of course. And I love the idea also of just having Amelia be the replacement for what was probably Fortuna, and being the 79th wife or whatever, not realizing that she was actually there, she was related in any sort of way, of course, to this person, but considering the fact that she looked similar enough to this person, or she had like some sort of like elf within her, of course. So I think that's just really funny, and not noticing at all that Sirius is probably Fortuna herself, or if not, somebody damn close. Not caring at all about that either is really funny. Just assuming that she's entirely delusional and everything to begin with is cool. Really cool moments too of being able to showcase Amelia here throughout this. It's something we're doing within this season, and I don't want to say nobody's like having character progression. Like I'm good, you know, you get, it's one of those things you get killed for if you try and say, but it's more on the ends of like, they are progressing, but it's not like in it's in a different way. The progression or the hurdle we had to get over to then see that actual growth occur, to actually see that like manifest itself and become and realize itself here, is something that only happened because of where season 2 like put us in a position, and everybody's just kind of going on the normal trajectory that we're assuming that they likely would have headed on after where we found ourselves in season 2 with all the stuff that they had to end up getting over. So it's not like they're not growing, but it's more so we're just seeing them become the person that we were expecting them to become after where season 2 ended, which is really nice, being able to finally get Amelia utilized within a battle here, not having her, or seeing that side of her that while wanting to save everybody and wanting to like view all as equals and everything, she gets to highlight that, of course, talking to the wives and stuff throughout this episode, but we do get to reflect on that a little bit more too, and get to make note of the fact that she's perfectly okay with having to you know, beat someone if it comes to it, kicking Regulus in the face and punching him once for all the wives, of course, and watching him die, claiming that she hates somebody, all first, of course, for her, but something that she's not afraid doing, of course, when it comes to protecting the lives of the innocent and the people that she has some sort of care for, is nice. And these are just natural progressions, of course, though, that you'd assume that you'd be able to get out of these characters based on the trials and things that they had to overcome at another point. And the overall dynamic and teamwork between her and Subaru is also excellent throughout this, and I really like of each of them having enough faith and trust in each other to take on certain tasks and do certain things, while the other one either of them not really having an issue of one oversteps themselves and decides to say, okay, let me handle it or let me take it from there, because they have full faith and trust in this person that they're going to be with for probably their lives, you know. Like, of course, and to start off and have that strong of a bond because of these things that they've had to go and overcome together here has been really excellent. And this is only going to be things that are steps to end up, of course, making them feel even closer going forward. So it's real beautiful all around. We must go to the wives. I love her just pleading over and over with her. And all of them letting them know what's going on, talking about like things that they value, trying to figure out the names, get down to the general core of these things, right? Not view them as objects, not view them as not people, view them as single individuals and not individuals who are labeled in a way that isn't personalized, in a way that falls in line or falls in an order. Instead, you're very different. Instead, you are an actual person who has a life that does matter and you should continue, you know, and live, which is great, but something that they struggle to hold on to. Their life is actually all they have, but their life isn't worth much in their own eyes. But it's one of those things, like, they struggle, they don't want to, like, you don't want to be in the position you are, but they just kind of come to accept it almost after they finally realize they have the opening and the ability to speak negatively and talk about how much they hate Regulus, because there is potential here. You also do get to see with the potential suicides and things that come out of this too, of they're perfectly okay taking their lives, but there's no benefit to doing so. All they do is kind of just escape this, but then they lose their lives in general, and somebody else is just going to take their position, and it's going to just cause more suffering for somebody else. So instead of doing that, let me just hold my position and hold strong, which is a really fucking shitty thing that they unfortunately have to put themselves in due to the fact of how awful of a person he ends up being. So Amelia, of course, trying to counter that and trying to project this idea that we will be able to do something and defeat him in a way that would be able to free you and would allow you to have your life, is enough for them to step up and enough for them to be like, all right, fuck it, let's take this chance. Because if we're doing it for purpose, right, that's one of the things. Like, if there's no purpose in them just killing themselves outside of freeing themselves, that's cool, that's good for them, great, right? But they know somebody else is going to have to take that position, which unfortunately will allow them to suffer. That sucks. You don't want that to happen at all, of course, like, from their perspective. So they're trying to balance being like a good, kind-hearted person in general at the same time of like, I want to be free, and they force themselves into that shitty situation, which now they can open their eyes and realize, wait, there is a chance that we do something here, and if we put our faith and trust in this person, so let's do that. Let's put enough trust and faith in them, and if things go our way, we're good. If things don't go our way, shit, we gave it our best shot. You know what I mean? You gotta try at least, which is very, very true. They struggle, they go through a whole bunch of dialogue. Amelia preaches all equality and everything, despite how different they are. They're still the same, or still have common things, of course, amongst them. Great things that, of course, will make her likely a good ruler for seeing people, of course, as equals and stuff. Well, she still has areas, of course, that she lacks. The other candidates end up making up for, which is what makes the battle between all of them and their personalities and stuff rather interesting. And Amelia at this point is able to figure this out. So just correct me if I'm wrong here, because I don't fully get this part still. I just want to get full clarity on this. So his heart, he's able to attach or latch into this, especially in pieces in some sort of way like this. Is it latched onto every single individual at this point? It's one of those things where you have to kill every single one to be able to eliminate it? Or is it one of those things where it's only on one, but if you kill it, it essentially will just transfer itself, or he has the ability to transfer itself to somebody else? So that's where the real concern comes in, because everybody else will still have to essentially get killed, because he has infinite, like, not infinite, but he has like 50 different options to be able to of course go between here. And then the only reason it latches onto Amelia in a way is because everybody gets frozen, so of course it goes to her. Or is it the situation where every single one has a part of it somehow latched onto them, and then he implanted it, and that's why we found her and she was like naked and everything when we initially did, because that was like initially what he ended up doing? Or which is it, either of those, or am I off completely? Because I didn't fully get it, and then they explained it in a way that made sense to me, and then they explained it again in a way that didn't make sense. Like I got rather confused. Like when she was like, "It's in me," I was really confused how exactly that happened, because they're not technically married in a way. So like becoming the wife isn't necessarily the requirement. It's more of like giving this person like this false hope of like what something's going to be, when in reality that's not actually going to happen. Like you intimidate them into doing something as a way to trick them into being into close proximity to you, and then no longer having to like you wouldn't face like action against, like, not that it would matter because of like his strength and stuff, but no like legal like issue type of thing, right? Because people couldn't be like, he's holding me hostage, like it's my wife, like I'm not doing anything, you know. Is it either of those things or not? Explain. Subaru is able to figure it out. All the girls want to essentially kill themselves. It's heartbreaking to see how quick they are to jump to it and willing to do so. I love how he calls him out for wanting to monologue too. While we're doing this, you're the exact kind of person who would want to do that. Over the top facial reactions, of course, and Amelia steps in to be absolute badass, deliverance of awesome lines to him as well, and willing to take the fight to him because of how much she just hates him, and also as a way for all of them. Regulus, of course, being very boastful and arguing back and forth with what his abilities are and what he's capable of doing, all this, thinking he's great, until we get to the point where he starts looking into this, starts realizing and dismissing and downplaying the largest achievement that Subaru has ever had to overcome, really, and now being able to overcome that and being looked down on for it, something that everybody else praises you. It's not a great feeling. It's not something that does well, right? But at the same time, we utilize that to a strength, right? Amelia being Juice taking in the unseen hand and the authority under the assumption that he's protecting Amelia, Fortuna as well, but protecting Amelia, to then be the one who gets to utilize his ability, even though it's not technically him, but it's through Subaru, to be the one who gets to utilize that ability to free her, and then be the ultimate ability to make the downfall of Regulus even come true, is very beautiful. It's very beautiful, and I love the way that we were able to do that. He's able to fulfill his wish, or his promise, essentially, that he was going to be able to protect them in some sort of way, and he keeps her alive, of course, and he eliminates the person that he set out to defeat that one day as well, which I think is absolutely beautiful. Subaru, I don't know how he's still able to keep using this. And also the fact, I really love this. I think this is a fucking brilliant thing. And maybe I'm reading too far into it. He calls it unseen hand, right? This is invisible providence. He's always talked about that, right? This is an ability that he's utilizing, and we haven't seen him use a bunch, but he's utilized it in a way for the benefit of others in some sort of way. He never intended to like maybe utilize it as a way to kind of kill somebody. He hit Regulus with it at some point, but you don't know if he necessarily was just trying to, you know, knock Amelia out of his hands, or like what it was. Utilizing the unseen hand, is it just more of he's calling back to the fact that you want to like dismiss and downgrade whatever his, or downplay whatever his biggest accomplishment is here, so I'm going to use the exact same ability and the exact same terminology to go against you doing this? Or is it more of like we're going to utilize, when we're using it for good, it's the providence, when we're using it for potential death or harm or destruction of other things, as opposed to like, you know, hitting Garf with it and just trying to like calm him down, get him onto our side or something, we're going to call that the providence. But when we're using this and we're going to potentially take the things away, take the life, take the heart, destroy things, we're going to utilize it as unseen hand. It could go anyway. It could be nothing, and I'm just reading too much into it, but very beautiful of this, because this is what we get, right? The hand directly going towards her. I could be wrong. If this didn't happen in an OP, tell me I'm wrong. I'm sorry. I'm going to go back and watch them actually at one point to say, but I'm pretty sure it looks something very similar to this. And she's able to recall and remember Juice through the general idea of this, which I don't necessarily get. Maybe it's just like the general feeling of that being within somebody, so it's like a warmth that he essentially is like provided before at some point. But she technically hadn't seen the hand or anything, even though she's seen like the effects and stuff that it had. So how she would know, I don't know. There's also another note where I'll go back and check later, but I'm pretty sure she like saw a flashback and Regulus was like in it, and then later she was like, I don't remember this guy. So like, is she just capping? Did she not actually see that, or maybe somebody else saw it and I missaw it? But Subaru able to do it, bring him down, bring him to a bunch of blood, but whatever, you did it to protect us. Beautiful. wonderful thing, which now brother's too, in himself here that he's unable to see the fact that he's getting soaked, gets destroyed, and Amelia beats the shit out of him. One for every life. Wonderful. Regulus being so arrogant, wants this one-on-one, wants this battle. Not that it would do much, because necessarily isn't the most fighting type of them all. And here comes the goat who fucking pushed off the moon to be able to come back, which is insane to me. Who in two blows, realistically, he only needed one if we're being honest, but he sends him up where we get Regulus to explain himself, explain his backstory, his feelings, the insecurity of everybody looking up and laughing at him and feeling the type of way towards him, not wanting to ever feel that way again, not liking that at all. It's hilarious to me. It absolutely is. The blood surrounding all of them, the no eyes, all looking the same, being labeled essentially as numbers, all these, the lives that you essentially took. It's not my fault. Once again, justifying the actions that he has done over and over to the fact that it isn't his fault to do this. I had the right to do so, which is like how obsessed he ends up being with the fact that he has these rights and these things, and you can't like kind of disobey, or you can't kind of like go against it and disrespect that in any sort of way, because it's not your fault if you just take advantage of these rights and the things you do. I have the right to do this because of the things that you've ultimately done. Reinhardt's so badass here. The only thing I do wish we got from production standpoint on this sort of sequence, and also like him flipping and stuff throughout the air was really, really awesome, was the like general like highlights and stuff that we get within the ED when they come like face to face in with each other. I think look really awesome and would have like really made these scenes pop a little bit more, and I would have preferred that, but it's okay regardless. It still looks good no matter what. Brutal ways of just him dying, getting completely destroyed, trying to stop and start his heart over and over to be able to preserve his time, but it overwhelms him. It becomes too much at a certain point, likely drowning at this point, causing the death. Did I meet him before? And here at the end, a little highlight. We wake all the girls up. Beautiful. Love to see that, but we have a battle coming before us, which will be really entertaining. 2 archbishops remain. Also some other battles with other members, so 2 other battles on top of that. Well, I guess 3 if we want to technically look at and consider the fact that there's 2 different versions of gluttony, but I don't know if we're going to count that as 2 or 1 or what, but we will. It all remains to be seen, I guess. So I'm excited to see where that goes. I thought it was really awesome the way that they demonstrated and put together so much that made you question what Regulus was capable of and who he was and everything up to this point, that now come full circle, make perfect sense at this point, and are just entirely fitting, and makes you reflect on and realize why everything else was so good for the way that he was kind of written up to this point. So I loved him. I loved him as a character. Sucks that we're gonna have to see him go. He's so entertaining, one of the most entertaining in the series so far, outside of Betelgeuse and Subaru, of course, but lovely nonetheless. They do a great job with most of the villains within this. So hopefully you enjoyed. If you liked it, like and subscribe down to me. Feel free to check out the video channel and comments with this other series. I'll be back for episode 63 or episode 13 of season 3 next week. I hope you guys have a great one. Please.